Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are doing another deep dive deck on Orah Skyclave Hierophant, this time in a roundabout way as recommended by Zach Kelly, one of my commenters. And I actually recommended a different thing for being a Cleric Kindred commander, and he brought this up right away, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's better. And then he recommended some other budget cards to go in the deck, and I was like, oh, now I'm making this deck. So here it is. It is maybe the most Orzhov deck. It's so much lifelink and so much recursion that it's all about what Orzhov likes to do. Anyway, please hit like and subscribe. We are looking at Orah Skyclave Hierophant. This is part 1, talking about the commander. Really just doing a deep dive on the commander so you know what we're doing with the deck. So he is 2, a white and a black. For this 3/3 core cleric with lifelink. Again, he's all about clerics, so he's a cleric himself. Makes sense. Whenever he or another cleric you control dies, return a target cleric with lesser value to the battlefield from your graveyard. So that's very, very useful. Usually clerics are not the really aggressive Kindred type, but here we're just going to be able to keep throwing them at people, and yeah, we're going to keep pulling new clerics out every time and punishing them for using blocking and stuff like that. It's going to be fun anyway. Again, he is very focused on clerics. Almost everything in this deck is a cleric or a token. There's maybe a couple exceptions for like card draw and stuff like that, but that's about it. Also gaining life and recursion. As an Orzhov commander, he is all about life gain and recursion, and these are two things that Orzhov is just really, really good at to begin with. So yeah, this kind of fits the Orzhov. This might be the most Orzhov deck I've ever made. So note that his ability is not limited to once per turn. A lot of abilities like this will say once per turn, not this. So really, if there's like a board wipe, you can put a whole whack load of like clerics from your graveyard directly into play as long as they have the lower CMC. And that is the major limitation of his ability. We're going to set up kind of like an economy where we've got the most expensive one, and then everything will kind of be about recursion from that. And we've got lots of ways to sacrifice as well. So yeah, we're going to keep sacrificing and like bringing new things out all the time. And especially when we've got sack things that let you bring other things back from the graveyard, that is really what makes it worthwhile, because that's when you get that kind of like triple value thing. So basically you're going to sacrifice a cleric, which lets you put a cleric of lower value back into play, and because you sacrifice the cleric, you can put another card back into play, which is probably going to be a more expensive cleric. So yeah, this is how you were kind of manipulating that like value system there. Anyway, yeah, we can't rely solely on this ability to pull clerics out, so that is why we have all this other recursion. And we do have quite a bit of other recursion in this deck because it is so important. Again, recursion and lifelink are definitely our like major sub-themes here, besides the cleric kindred. So yeah, also just two things clerics are really good at in general. +1/+1 counters, of course, is the last one, and that's a really big thing in this deck, and that will be key to a lot of your like increasing value things. Yeah. Remember, cleric sack abilities can be used multiple times, so we've got quite a few clerics in here that have abilities that allow you to sacrifice the cleric to be able to get some kind of bonus, and you're going to be able to keep pulling those back out of your graveyard and using them over and over and over, which can be devastating for your opponents. It's kind of like having really cheap or even almost free kind of sorceries on hand or instants on hand, because a lot of them, the sack triggers you can do at instant speed usually. The deck price as of last night was $25.08. This one has been all over the place. I started working on it 2 weeks ago and it's gone like way below and way above. It's got like a $3 range that it goes up and down in just like the matter of days. I don't think I've ever had a deck that had this much variation over such a short time. The main objective is to take full advantage of Orzhov with your clerics, doing a ton of life gain and turning that life gain to damage for your opponents, like pinging away at them. and also just recursion, right? Even more recursion. Really what you want to do with this deck is outlast your opponents, alright? You're always going to be gaining life, well that causes them to lose life, so you can wear them down and make it easier for other opponents to knock them out, or just to like take them out yourself. Because hey, that works. Part 2, the key cards. What are the cards that really get work done in the deck? That's very important to keep in mind, of course. So we're going to look at a few of them. First of all, and maybe most like on the nose, is Shadowrite Priest. For a 1 and a black, this is a 2/2 that says, well, he's a cleric, first of all, of course. Other clerics you control get +1/+1. So all of your other clerics are going to have this Anthem effect, which is a nice little bonus. But for 3 black, sacrifice another cleric. Sorry, tap and sacrifice another cleric. Put your search your library for a black creature card. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. That is huge in this deck because remember, black doesn't mean mono black. It can be white and black. So you can get all kinds of useful things out using this. It costs 5, but it tutors and puts them straight into the battlefield. And it's going to sack a cleric, which is going to pull another cleric out of your graveyard. So yeah, you want clerics in your graveyard, and you want to be able to sack things, and you just want to be able to do everything that this does. 5 mana is a lot, but it's most likely going to be worth it, and you can use it to set up your like win con pretty easily. Orah Replica. This is a 3 mana for this 2/2 artifact creature cleric. You can pay 1 mana, sacrifice it, no tapping, prevent all damage a source of your choice would deal to you this turn. The real sneaky good thing about this ability is that, well, it does require you have 1 open mana. It cancels the damage. It doesn't target anything. So if there's like something that can't be targeted, or an effect that like maybe a creature is using that has hexproof or something like that, it doesn't matter. You're directly canceling the damage of the effect. You're not doing anything else. Also, if it's doing damage to like, say, all the other players, like you and your other two other opponents, you cancel your damage, but they keep their damage. So yeah, real sneaky, kind of like very, very difficult to counter thing. Also, you're sacrificing a 3-cost cleric, so you're going to be pulling a 2-cost cleric or a 1-cost cleric out. Or is it cost? CMC, I might as well just say. Anyway, this kind of can set up like a chain of sacrificing things, and you might want to start with this. And where might you want to go to next? Selfless Spirit. For 1 and a white, this is a 2/1 flyer. Nice having a flyer that you can sacrifice, or even just like allow, use as a blocker that you don't really, if it gets taken out, great. Anyway, you can sacrifice it. All your creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. This is really great if you like don't want to let that board wipe resolve, or you want to protect yourself from that board wipe. Most board wipes do destroy all creatures. It doesn't help if they like mass exile or something, but this will deal with most of the sorcery speed board wipes. This will take care of it. And you can keep pulling this out of your graveyard over and over again as well. Anyway, yeah, and from there, so if you sacrifice this, you can go get a 1-cost one. What are you going to get? Benevolent Bodyguard. For 1 white mana, sacrifice him. Again, no mana. Just like the last one, you just sacrifice it. You can do it at instant speed. Target creature you control gains protection for the color of your choice until end of turn. So if this is on the battlefield, basically, no one should even be wanting to like use target removal on your commander or anything, because you can just sack this and be like, okay, immune. Any target removal is almost shut down. Also, you can use it to like get your attacks through, right? If they can't block if you give them protection for the color that their creatures are. Again, if their creature has that color, even if it's like, if you give them protection from blue and they have like blue and white, they still have protection from that, right? So just a really handy trick that you're going to be able to do over and over and over. Next up is Whisper, Blood Liturgist. Liturgist? I think that means lawyer, right? Anyway, 3 and a black for this human cleric. You can tap him, sacrifice 2 creatures, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Again, we can make tons of tokens. So you can sacrifice a token or 2 tokens, or potentially sacrifice 2 clerics, get 1 higher cost cleric back, and you can get 2 lower cost cleric backs. Clerics back. The extra sacrifice here is actually quite good. And the fact that he's a cleric himself doesn't hurt either. Anyway, yeah. You're going to be able to really manipulate that kind of economy there of you're sacrificing 2, bringing 1 back, which lets you bring 2 more back. So yeah, sacrifice 2, get 3. Over and over and over. Sacrificing also allows you to set up to pull them back out of your graveyard as well. Heirloom Blade for 3. This is an equipment that gives target creature +3/+1. Yeah, sure. And whenever it dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card that shares a creature type with it. There are 40 clerics in this deck, so that's not 40 clerics. There's 40 creatures. Mostly clerics, though. Anyway, I'd say like over 35 clerics, probably. So put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Equip 1. Equip 1, so you're going to just keep equipping this, sack whatever creature it's equipped to, and then go get, go through your library until you get a cleric, throw it into your hand, and you can just do that over and over and over. So this is a way for you to load up your hand with clerics very easily, and you're going to be really well set up with that. Part 3, the plans. What are our deck objectives here? As always, step 1 is ramp, right? Ramp. Cleric, Kindred, unsurprisingly. Recursion, very, very important in this deck, of course. And ending the game, how do you win? So ramp, we've got Obscura Storefront, just fixing mostly. It's nice to have a little extra life gain in this deck, but it's really about just being able to get the Swamper Plains in. So yeah, it'll give you that extra little bit of fixing you might need. There are a lot of like cards that have 2 costs, like 2 white or 2 black, so having this might just give you exactly what you need at the time you need it. Path of Ancestry. So this is kind of like a command tower that enters tapped, which is a bad thing. But yeah, add 1 mana any color of your commander's color identity. When it's used to cast a creature spell that shares a type with your commander, scry 1. So all of those clerics are going to keep letting you scry 1, scry 1. Scry 1, if you're able to do it over and over and over, does add up. Also note that you don't have to use this on a cleric. If you use it on cleric, you get to scry 1, you get a bonus. But if you use it for anything else, that's fine too. Myriad Landscape. So you can tap it for colors or pay 2 and sack it. And go get up to 2 basic lands that share a land type. And put them into the battlefield tap. So basically, you're going to use that 1 and ramp it into 2 more. It's all right. Yeah, it's if you don't have green, it's something. Vault of the Archangel. So this is really not about ramp. This is more utility, I guess. But anyway, 1 colorless. You can pay 2 and a white and black. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. This is a big threat. This allows you to play very aggressively because at any point you can just tap this and all of a sudden, if they have blockers, everything's gone, right? You can wipe out their board. And all of your stuff is going to pretty much, you're going to have a secondary board show up right away from recursion, and they're not. So yeah. The lifelink is going to be huge as well. But anyway. Path to Exile. Again, this is removal, but you get a land from it. Or an opponent gets a land from it. Whoever is cast on gets a land from it. So use this on one of your tokens. So you're going to be able to make all these 1/1 bat tokens, for instance. Nuke one of them. Go get whatever land you need. Basic land you need. And yay. 1 mana ramp in white is nothing to complain about. So Cleric, Kindred. We're going to look at Edgewalker. This is the actual card that Zach recommended, as well as the commander, that made me go okay, I actually have to build this deck now. Oh boy. Anyway, 1 white black for this Cleric 2/2. Another Cleric. Always nice. Cleric spells you play cost white black less to play. This effect only reduces the colored mana cost. So yeah. There's so many Clerics in this deck that are 1 black or 1 white or black and a white. Those are free now. This is going to be just huge. And at 3 mana value, you can pull this out of your graveyard pretty easily as well. Cleric of Life's Bond. Speaking of white and black, so that's free with Edgewalker. Whenever another cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So yeah, cast a cleric, or not cast. If it enters the battlefield, gain 1 life every time. And that's going to set off all kinds of other triggers that is just going to like be insane. And whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Yeah, not too bad. +1/+1 counters are a major sub-theme in this deck, so that's going to do a lot of work too. It's going to be nice. Minwu, White Mage. 3 white for this 3/3 Vigilance Lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each cleric you control. Yeah, so you life, like say if a cleric enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, and now all of your clerics get +1/+1. Yeah, not too shabby. And at 5 mana, this is one of your higher ones, but it means it's one of the ones you look to sack to get like the lower and lower ones. But anyway, very useful little thing here. This is actually what I recommended in a short, and Zach responded to this being like, yeah, you should, Orah Skyclave Hierophant wants to have a word with you, I believe is what he said. He was correct. Pontiff of Blight. 4 black for this. 2/7 with Extort. Creatures you control have Extort. So everything has Extort. Extort just means you pay an extra white or a black when you cast any spell, and you get to, like, everyone else loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That gain 1 life usually is not a big deal. In this deck, it's going to like just keep setting off all these other triggers that are just going to be so much. You're also pinging people down a lot of times with this, and this makes that pinging so much easier. So yeah, you've got like Marauding Death Priest and things like that. Every time you gain life, everyone else is going to lose life. So really, you pay 1 extra mana, everyone else loses 1 life. So they lose 3 altogether, and you gain 1 life, setting off another trigger, making everyone else lose 1 life. So really, it's like 1 mana to do 6 damage and gain 2 life. Like, or sorry, gain 1 life. But yeah, and you could potentially do this for every creature on the battlefield. Yeah. And as the most expensive one, this is the one that you always want to pull out of your graveyard if it is there first, because it'll give you access to every other cleric in the deck. Skemfar Shadow Sage. I can't say that. Skemfar Shadow Sage. I feel like Sean Connery all of a sudden. Anyway, 3 in the black for this 2/5, and when he enters the battlefield, choose 1. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures you have in. Basically, clerics. You're going to do clerics. The number of clerics you have in common. Maybe bats if you've had a lot of recursion with your bats, but anyway. Also, we've got a mirror entity that will make everything into a changeling, so everything is going to count as the same thing, whatever you want, really. So yeah, you can just count everything as a cleric, and then drain out everyone for a whole bunch. Especially really good if, I don't know, maybe you could flicker over and over and over. Also, yeah, you can gain X life, where X is the number of creatures that share a creature type you control. Also good in this deck. Finally, Akroma's Devoted for 3 and a white. Attacking doesn't cause clerics to tap. This is an old card, so Vigilance wasn't around yet. They all have Vigilance. Again, we're playing very aggressively, so we want something that lets us just keep attacking and blocking and losing those clerics and pulling other clerics out. And this is exactly what that does. Alright, Recursion now. First of all, Whisper Blood Liturgist. I feel like I'm saying it wrong again. For 3 and a black, we've already talked about this 2/2. Sacrifice 2. Basically, if there are 2 clerics, get 3 back. Real nice value engine there. Doom Necromancer for 2 and a black is a 2/2. Once again, Cleric Mercenary. For 1, you can tap and sack it. 2, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is really important for getting things like Pontiff of Blight back out. That is going to be like your most expensive card, and another one. So you sack this, you get a lower cost one, so 2 or 1 CMC, and you're going to pull your like most expensive one out as well to keep your value train just going around and around and around. So yeah. Desecrated Tomb For 3 mana, this is an artifact. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your battlefield, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. That's crazy, especially with something like Whisper, where you can potentially end up taking 3 cards out of, or 3 creatures out of your graveyard for sacking 2. Then you're making 3 bats as well. That gets real out of control. Redemption Choir for 2 white. This is a 3/3 with lifelink, Vampire Cleric. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, so a limitation there, but not much of one. Return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is just permanent. It does specify 3 or less, so there's a limitation, but it's permanent card. So like Obscure Storefront, it comes into the battlefield, automatically sacks itself, gain 1 life, go get any other card. So basically you could turn this into like a ramp generator. Nice little bonus, that's for sure. Anywho, Misery Charm for 1 black. This is an instant, a modal instant. Choose 1, destroy target creature, or sorry, target cleric. Return target cleric card from your graveyard to your hand. So it is only going to your hand, not straight back to the battlefield. But yeah, having the option to destroy a cleric or return 1 to your hand, very, very useful. Or target player loses 2 life. Maybe that'll come up. I don't know. Mostly it's the recursion, that's what I think. Okay, how do you win with this deck? First of all, I'm always going to talk about commander damage first. Excalibur 2. So whenever you gain life, put a charge counter on this, and the creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on it. We've got so many life gain instances. Remember, not how much you gain, it's the number of times you gain life. So like every lifelink counter or trigger is going to be separate every time a creature enters the battlefield. If you have 2 things that gain life when a creature enters, that's 2. So you do need 18 to get to commander damage, but 18 is not a lot when you're just getting all of these triggers all the time. Benevolent Bodyguard for 1, we talked about before. Basically, when you sack him, give your commander protection for the color of creature they have, and you go get your free shot in. They can't be blocked. Graveyard Value. Okay, Promise of Loyalty is a really good card in this deck. For 4 and a white, each player puts a vow counter on a creature they control and sacrifices the rest. Probably their commanders in Commander, right? Each of those creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control for as long as it has a vow counter on it. So all of their commanders, they're probably going to save, and they can no longer attack you. Which, especially if someone's playing a Voltron deck, that makes a really hard choice. Like, do you sack your commander and lose your everything you set up, or do you put a vow counter on your commander and like you can no longer like finish off this opponent with your commander damage? Also, Desecrated Tomb is just gonna you're gonna mass sack, and when you do that, you get to like bounce everything back to your battlefield. Everyone else is just out of all their creatures, right? Even things like indestructible creatures. Sacrifice gets around that, right? Any kind of protection that creature has doesn't really matter because it's the controller of the creature sacrificing it. Also, this is not targeted. This hits all opponents. It is not targeted. So whatever kind of like tricks they have, if they have hexproof or whatever, doesn't matter still. And yeah, you're gonna pull out a whole bunch of stuff from your graveyard and make a whole bunch of bats and be ready. Unfortunately, it is gonna give them another turn to like set things up again, but you're gonna be like fully prepared, and they're gonna be like trying to like rebuild. All right, our next up here, we got Flicker and Wind, Skemfar Shadow Sage. I think I actually said it this time. Again, when he comes in, you're gonna count how many of something you have in. How many creatures of a certain type you have in common, and you'll do that much damage or gain that much life. Dealing that much damage to each opponent is what we're looking at here. Combine that with another round. So XX2 and a white for this sorcery. Exile any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Repeat this process X times. So yeah, for 2 and a white, this will do it once. And you can pay 4 and a white, do it twice. 6 and a white, do it 3 times. And every time Skemfar is going to come back in, remember, you get to choose what you're exiling, putting back. you don't have to do all of them. So your token creatures, you can just leave them there, especially with like Mirror Entity. Make them all into changelings, or everything into changelings, and just count everything, right? So when Scamfire comes back in, you're just going to do that pile of damage over and over and over. Yeah. Probably going to end the game right there. Stacking pings. Okay, we've got lots of ways to, like, pinging usually is not a win con. In this deck, it can do a lot because of how, especially our life gain. We have so many ways to gain life. We're going to turn that into just, like, piles of damage. Little bits at a time, maybe, but little bits at a time all at once. Confusing, but... Starscape. Cleric. 3 and a black for this 2/1 flyer. Can't block. But it has Offspring. For 2 and a black, you get to make a copy of this, a 1/1 token copy. And whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So you can have 2 of those. Cliffhaven Vampire. 2 white-black for this 2/4 flyer. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Same effect, but yeah, not a Cleric is the downside for him. This one is a Cleric though. Marauding Blight Priest for 2 and a black. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Again, so if you have even 2 of these out, every time you gain life, every opponent is losing 2 life. We've got so many life gain triggers in this deck that that's just going to turn into like absolute, demolishing them. Get Buff is the next one I call it. Mirror Entity, we talked about it a couple times, making everything into changelings. And Minwu, White Mage, 3 white, again, Vigilance, Lifelink. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each Cleric you control. So you're just going to make everything into changelings, meaning they all count as Clerics, and then you're going to just start dropping your +1/+1 counters on them every time you gain life. And as an added bonus, you could use Abzan Battle Priest, who is also a Cleric, for 3 and a white, is a 3/2, and has each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has lifelink. So you give all of your creatures these +1/+1 counters, you make them into Clerics, and then you just start like throwing them at people. And that's what this deck wants to do. Just keep throwing all of your stuff at people, and if they block and send it to the graveyard, great, you got a new creature coming out right away. And if they don't, they take damage and you gain life. Or you gain life either way, I guess. Okay, so part 5, the last part. I'm very excited about it being the last part because I have to turn off the aircon and it's summer in South Korea. Not fun, but this is just being prepared. What's important in the deck, really? Our sub-theme, +1/+1 counters, or one of our sub-themes, I should say. Barren Step Siege, 2 white and a black for this enchantment. You can choose Abzan or Mardu. I'm looking at the Abzan. So at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Really nice because this doesn't care if they're Clerics or not. We've got a lot of ways to do it for Clerics. This just does it for everything, every turn. Especially if you had things enter the battlefield. At the end of the turn, be able to just throw a whole bunch of +1/+1 counters on them. Really, really nice. Tabarax, Hope's Demise for 2 and a black, is a Demon Cleric with flying, a 2/2 flyer. He has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more +1/+1 counters on it. Very doable, I think. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, hopefully a lot, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So yeah. All of these Clerics that you just keep basically like throwing at them so that they get destroyed and you recur them. He takes full advantage of that. If that was a Cleric, you may draw a card. If you do lose 1 life, you may draw a card. Again, we should have lots of lifelink and life gain in this, so we're very happy to take that, card draw for the lifelink, or the loss of it, yeah. The loss of 1 life, and putting a +1/+1 counter on, yeah. Crazy. Duty Beyond Death. I love this card. This is one friend of mine, Adam, from the We Don't Learn episodes. If you've seen those, you might know him from that. Anyway, 1 and a white for this instant. Additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. We love sacrificing creatures in this deck, so this is not a downside, it's an upside. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn, +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Again, so all your creatures are getting +1/+1 counters, and you get to sack something. and they're indestructible. So if there's like a board wipe at a bad time, you've got that counter right there. Abzan Battle Priest we talked about already, but yeah. +1/+1 counter, lifelink for everything. Finally, Abzan Falconer. Everything with a +1/+1 counter has flying now too. Evasion, very nice little bonus. Life Gain. Minwu White Mage. Again, every time you gain life, he is going to put a +1/+1 counter on all the clerics. Nice. Ancestor's Prophet. This is not a bonus from, it's actually getting your life gain in. Tap 5 untaps clerics you control, you gain 10 life. So you can do this. Again, he doesn't have to tap to do this. You can tap him, but yeah. So again, if you've got Mirror Entity, just make all your tokens into changelings, and you could just tap everything and just gain like who knows how much life every turn. And yeah, get all those side benefits as well. Well of Lost Dreams. This is great in combination with the last one. For 4 mana, this is an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained if you do draw X cards. So yeah, you can tap 5 clerics, gain 10 life, and then pay 10 or less mana, draw that many cards. So just at the right before your turn, the last player's end step, tap a bunch of clerics, gain a bunch of life, sink mana into it, and just be like stacked on cards for the next turn. Nuts. Metropolis Reformer. 2 and a white for this flying vigilance. It gives you hexproof, which is a nice little bonus. And whenever it is dealt damage, you gain that much life. So again, it turns like attacking you into a really bad idea because you've got this blocker that's going to like gain life. Ley Line of Hope. 2 white for this enchantment. So if it's in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. Definitely a nice bonus. So if you gain life, gain that much life +1. So you're getting an extra life every time. That will add up. As long as you have at least 7 or more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. Just all of your creatures get an extra +2/+2. You're probably going to have more than 7. So that'll that might almost be a win con right there. Now we're going to talk about the Sacrifice subtheme, Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim. For a white and a black, she's a cleric, so again, if Edgewalker's out, she's free. She's a 2/3 with Death Touch. Pay 1, sacrifice another creature, you gain life equals the sacrificed creature's toughness. Not bad. Again, she doesn't have to tap, so you can do this multiple times. And also not requiring tap, 1 white, black, sacrifice another creature, exile target non-land permanent. Exile a non-land permanent, removal, and sack. Oi. Activate this ability only if you have 10 or more life than your starting total. Very easily doable, right? Final payment. For a white and a black, this is an instant. Destroy target creature. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature, pay life. Pay 5 life. You know what? Either way is probably going to be okay. Sacrifice the creature, the better option, but still. Starlit Sanctum. This is a land. You can tap for a colorless or pay 1 white, tap it, sacrifice a cleric, gain life equal to its toughness, or pay a black, tap, sacrifice a cleric, target player loses life equal to it, sacrifice creature's power. Again, if your cleric is like, has got a bunch of +1/+1 counters, or you've equipped Excalibur 2 to it, it's probably going to be this like beast. You can just sack it and instantly do a whole bunch of damage directly to someone's head. Once again, might be your finisher. Duty Beyond Death we already talked about, so yeah. Indestructible and +1/+1 counters for sacking creature and 2 mana. That'll do. Misery Charm we talked about as well. The main thing I'd look for is the recursion, but having that instant speed removal can potentially be useful. Tutor effects. Okay, Shadowrite Priest, we also talked about him already. His ability does cost 5 and tapping and sacrificing a cleric, but you get anything you want out of your deck as long as it is a black creature. Any black creature straight to the battlefield. Moonblessed Cleric for 2 and a white. 3 not too bad at this deck, CMC wise, for the 3/2. When she enters it, you may search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, put it on top of your deck. It doesn't get it to hand, it only gets it on top of your deck. But we do have plenty of like draw options, and we can just make that worthwhile anyway. Finally, illicit shipment. I love this one so much. 3 black. Expensive, 5 for the sorcery. It has casualty 3, meaning you sacrifice something that has 3 power or greater, and you'll copy it. So this is a double tutor for 5. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Twice. Yeah, that'll do. We're talking about tokens. Griffin Airy, 1 and a white for this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, probably every turn, create a 2/2 white Griffin creature token with flying. 2/2 flyer, not bad. Only at the end of your turn, there's the downside, but yeah. Speaker of the Heavens for 1 white, Vigilance lifelink. Cleric, again, it's a 1 mana, so you can just keep pulling this out of your graveyard. Tap, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Activate this ability only if you have 7 or more life than your starting total. And only time you could cast a sorcery. So yeah, just an extra 4/4 flying angel probably every turn. And he's very easy to get back as well. Angelic Accord for 3 and a white. This is once again an enchantment at the beginning of your end step. Each. This is why it's an upgrade from Griffin Airy. One of 2 reasons actually. If you gain 4 or more life this turn, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So you can do that every single turn, just by gaining life, which should not be very hard. Remember, you can like use Whisper to sack something and put 2 things in the graveyard to get 3 things back and potentially trigger all that life gain from doing that. Not hard to do, but yeah, great way to get a whole bunch of 4/4 angels. And Desecrated Tomb we talked about already as well, so I won't go over that, but yeah. This 1/1 bats may not sound impressive, but we got lots of ways to put +1/+1 counters on them. Also, they're flying blockers. Hey, we'll take it. Archfiend's Vessel. For 1 black, this Cleric, it has lifelink, a 1/1 with lifelink. But yeah, when you pull him back, you recur him back out of your graveyard, he gets exiled instead, and you make a 5/5 demon. It is a one-time thing because he's exiled, but yeah. A 5/5 flyer for 1 mana, I'll take it. And this has been Orah Skyclave Hierophant. I really like this deck. I always say I want to build these decks in real life, and I should figure out a way to like be able to order them and get them sent to me in Korea, I think. Anyway, take it easy.